Welcome to another inspiring episode of Self-Development Sundays. I'm your host, Brittani Starr. And today we have a very special guest who is here to help us unlock the power of our minds and transform our lives. Trish Rock is a peace coach, a psychic, a mentor, and a best-selling author. Her new book, The Peace Process: Tools to Align and Prosper, offers a unique perspective on manifesting and achieving success. Trish has been changing lives for over 4 decades, and today she'll share her wisdom and insights with us. Get ready for some personal development with Self-Development Sundays right now. So welcome to the show, Trish Rock.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. What an honor. Thank you.
Can you tell us about, you wrote this book, it's called The Peace Process. Can you tell us about it and what inspired you to write it?
Well, I've been really doing a lot of personal development for the past 12 or 13 years, and there were a lot of things that worked for me and a lot of things that didn't work for me. And it's been, there's been many times that it was very frustrating, seeing things work for other people, and yet I couldn't get these things to work for me in my life. And I started writing it down, and it kind of ended up being a book. And I really wanted to write it as a book because part of the way that I channel in messages as well is through my writing, and so it's really easy for me to write. And so I wanted to put it into a book so that people could use this process that I've created to help transform their lives. And the book also is a real remembrance and a different perspective perhaps on who we are, and helping people to get back to that remembrance of who they are, so that they can live a more authentic life.
That's beautiful. So, well, I guess you kind of talked about it, but what sets the Peace Process apart from other self-development books?
Well, the Peace Process it's a 5-step process that I've created. So it actually goes into that, and once you go through the 5 steps, it's rinse and repeat, and you can just keep on doing it in any area of your life. And it's a little bit different because there is a lot of elements in the book that give you a new perspective perhaps on who you are, why you're here, what you're capable of, what you can remember really about the essence of you. But the reason the Peace Process is a little bit different is that I start with the end first. And there's a lot of personal development programs out there, and look, I've done a lot, and a lot of it works, and every single thing I've done and learned has helped me in a certain way. But there was a few areas in my life where no matter what I did, I felt like I was here reaching for something over there. And it always kept me in this lack. It's like, here I am here, but what I want's over there. How do I get there? And I always felt this lack. And so there was a night, one night when I was really at rock bottom again, feeling like such a failure. And I just said to the universe, I just called out to my spirits and said, look, help me. I need an answer here that's going to help me, like something that works for me. And I really, it was kind of crying out in desperation, but I was also crying out in frustration, and really in a resolve to find an answer that worked for me. And overnight I was inspired to write down these 5 steps, and I realized that it was starting with the end first, because step 1 is actually going to another reality where you already are what it is. And anyway, so I tried that immediately the next day, and it did feel different because I was starting with the end first. And I thought, wow, okay, this works for me. It's going to work for others as well. So I wanted to then share it. But, you know, starting with the end first really, really helped for me. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, about the parallel realities and how it really can help. Because, you know, I tried to change my environment first. I tried to do all of the forgiveness and acceptance first. I tried all the things here to get to there, and I was still feeling like I wasn't there. And in this process, I'm already there first before I do the things. And it really worked, and it works for a lot of my clients as well. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the parallel realities, because I was about to ask about that. So can you explain what that is? So I know the US government put out, I can't remember what, maybe a year or a few years ago, I'm not sure, but they were talking about something similar to that, the gateway process, which is kind of like visiting other realities. And so I'm like, that added a whole lot of validity to a lot of what, you know, spiritual people have been doing for a long time. So can you talk about parallel realities and what that should mean to us, and how can we use this to our benefit?
Yes, yeah. And so I think everybody who works with other realities may do it for different purposes, different reasons. The reason I like to work with parallel realities is that, well, firstly, I believe that time is a construct, and I believe that this moment now is a layer of all the moments of now. So as such, I feel we can access any part of our lives, past, future, present. So that's my belief. So from that belief, the reason that step one in my process and going to this parallel reality is such a vital step is that, myself included, but a lot of people that I've worked with can't imagine what their transformed life would feel like. They don't, you know, it's like, okay, I want this in my life. I want to transform this. I'm in lack. I want to feel abundance. I've had awful relationships. I want to feel what a good one's like, you know, and a lot of them can't even imagine it. So no matter what work they do, they're still here, like I said before, wanting to get there, but they don't know what it feels like. So in this process, we actually go, it's a little bit like imagining, but we go a little bit deeper. So and my other belief is that anything you can imagine is something you've experienced. I can't imagine the experiences you can imagine. Right. We all have unique imaginations. And so I believe that anything I can imagine is something I've experienced. And so when we get clear on what it is, so let's go to relationships, for example. If you're looking for a particular, you know, beautiful, loving soulmate relationship, but you've never had one, or you've had one, but you want to make a few little changes, then we go through this process and just imagine, and we go in and we imagine it, but it's more than imagining. It's really about going into this imagination and remembering. And when you go there in your mind and in your heart, because we've all imagined things before, but when you shift from imagining into remembering, and you're looking at this from your own eyes like it's a memory, everything shifts, because you kind of, oh yeah, that is possible for me. Oh yes, I am lovable. Yes, I can be loved like that. And it becomes less of a I hope this can happen, and more of a, I know this can happen because I remember it's happened before in another reality. And when you get to that, then coming back to the present moment now in this lifetime, you have that confidence that it's possible. And so I believe that going to these parallel realities, they're our own parallel realities. So as I said before, there are other people that work with more overall kind of other realities that do exist, and I do believe a lot of different realities exist all at once. But I like to hone on the person's or my client's personal realities, and they go there through their heart, through their imagination, and they can really remember. So for instance, so I gave you an example about relationships. So one of my biggest struggles was lack, and no matter how much money was flowing in, it all just flowed back out again, right? And I was still in this lack mindset, because that was one of my biggest beliefs about myself, right? We all have these old beliefs and stories about ourselves, and it didn't seem to matter what I did, I just couldn't get out of it. So when I first did this process, I had to get clear on what I wanted. And if I had have worked straight away on like becoming wealthy Trish rather than lack Trish, I still would have ended up back at lack Trish, because I was still in that mindset. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the other thing that I really help my clients with, pinpointing the next thing. Because when I started this personal development 12 years ago or 13 years ago, I just wanted my whole life to change. And so I'm like, okay, I'm done with it all. I need it all to change. But it's so overwhelming. Nothing changes, right? You have to get clear on what it is you want to change. So in my instance, the first one that I did for myself was from lack to abundant. And I chose that transformation because anything else to do with money would have been pointless unless I had an abundant mindset.
Right.
And so that's where I started. And then, when I transformed that, then I could work on the other areas of wealth and money in my life that needed to change. But, me having a better relationship with money would have been pointless if I still had a lack mindset.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I went to that reality where I was living that abundant mindset and really tuned into it and remembered it. And when I was back here then in my now life, I would think differently. I was acting differently. I was making different decisions based on what I remembered. And this is the same for everybody who goes through it. And then you start to change the physical environment because you remember that it's possible. And that was one of the big things with me. I just didn't think it was possible. I'd lived with that. I think it was generational, really, a generational lack mindset from depression and war and all the things that, my parents and grandparents and their parents went through. It was a big thing that I just didn't think it was possible for me to have an abundant mindset. But going to that reality where I had lived that, I then knew it was possible. And when you know something's possible, everything opens up to you, because every action you take, every decision you make, it's not based on fear. It's based on knowing that it's possible. And that's really empowering, and it makes everything transform really fast. Yeah.
That is powerful. That's interesting. So I'm going to go
Yeah.
off topic a little bit. So Zarlequan actually it's a place that I made up. I say welcome back home. And so for me, it's like remembering where home actually is, where I'm completely fulfilled, where I live by intuition. I have everything that I need. And that's what Zarlequan's always represented. And that's what it is in my stories. It's this magical place that you're home and everything that you need is fulfilled. You have all the money, all the food, everything that you need. Yeah. So
Oh, I
that's it.
love that. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
in your book, forgiveness and acceptance are key components for your process.
Yes.
Those are hard.
Look,
How
they
can
are.
these practices help people transform their lives? And you know what? And how do we do that when you're so gosh darn angry? Like, I'm so mad at this person for doing this to me. How do I forgive them?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it is tricky, and that's why starting with remembering who you really are first really helps with all of that, because when you start with the end first, then the forgiveness, the acceptance, the connection, the changing the environment all just flows from there. And that's why it's so powerful to do the end first, because yeah, like you, like I was in that kind of, well, how do I accept where I am now? It was like, if that's the starting point, I'm never going to finish. Right. But forgiveness and acceptance, I believe forgiveness is freedom, and it's never really about the other people. It's really about you. And when you're starting from a point of, I need to, if you've in the mindset of I need to forgive all of this before I can move on, then it becomes like a forced thing. And then there's resentment. It's like, I really resent the fact that I can't move on in life until I forgive this person, right? Then you get even more angry about that. So in this way of doing things, you've already gone and remembered who you are in certain situations. When you come back, it's really easy to let go of that stuff, because it's not defining who you are anymore. And it's ultimately a forgiveness of self. And in the book, and when I work with people, we start a forgiveness list. And it's a little bit, it's like a gratitude list, but it's not something that you're forced to do, right? Because it needs to flow. But I encourage people to have a forgiveness list at the back of their journal. And whenever something comes up, just write it in there. And it could be something from the past, or it could be something from, I forgive myself for snapping at so-and-so today. I didn't mean it, and I'll apologize tomorrow. Or, just those little things that we also have going through our head on a daily basis, that we think, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or, oh, I was a bit angry today, and you go over and over and over it. Having a forgiveness list at the back of your journal allows you to just go in there and get it out of your head and forgive yourself. It's okay. It's okay. I'll do better next time. And then also when those bigger ones come up, like forgiving someone for terrible things they've done to you in the past, it's more about, I forgive myself for thinking it was my fault. I forgive myself for the anger that's built up in me. And it's really about letting go of, I don't even like to say the words letting go, because nothing's ever gone, but it's releasing yourself from the hold that event or that person has on you, because while it still has a hold on you, it still has the power over you. And by forgiving yourself for anything that comes up when you're writing this, it frees you from that hold. And I mean, eventually you can get to the point, especially with more severe kind of experiences, you can get to the point where, you know, I forgive so and so, they didn't know any better, I send them love, you know, and that's really, once again, freeing you. It's nothing to do with them. And, you know, a lot of the people I work with find it hard to forgive because they think that they're condoning someone's behavior, or they're condoning someone for being so nasty or whatever. But it's not about that. It's about you releasing yourself from the control that that person or that situation still has on you by you holding on to it. And so it's freedom for you. And this little forgiveness list really helps with that, because it just gets it out. And I know there was one thing in particular for me on this list that just kept coming up and up. And so I knew every time that I wrote it, because it was quite a big hurtful situation, and I know every time I wrote it, I was forgiving another part of it.
Oh, wow.
And releasing another part of it. So I think, you know, people need to be a little bit more loving and gentle on themselves. And, you know, a lot of the content in my book is about remembering, you know, what a magnificent, beautiful, amazing being you are, and you are not your experiences. But your experiences help you to remember who you are, and releasing those resentments and the anger that you're feeling really releases the control that those people or those experiences still have on you, and then you're free to be all that you can be. Yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. I love the whole releasing and for creating freedom for yourself. That is actually what you're doing. You're not condoning anything the person did. It's really not about them anymore. They don't even have to be part of that process. That I think that's important for people to understand.
Acceptance is really big too, right? Acceptance brings on the forgiveness. So, you know, once you've gone to that reality where you're already living and remembering who it is that you're transforming into, right? You come back, it's easy to accept where you are now. You kind of go, you know what? I really just accept who I am, where I've been, where I've come from. Here I am now. What's next from here? Because then you are really in that energy of acceptance, and you're not living in the past. You're making decisions from here. What's next? Because even acceptance is hard for some people. If I say to them, you need to, you know, can you just accept your life right now? They think they're accepting the bad situation. They think they're accepting the bad environment, but you're accepting where you are now. Then make decisions about what's next. Because if you're not accepting it, you're making decisions from fear, you know. So how can I explain that? You're making decisions then to avoid something you don't want.
Right.
But when you're in acceptance, you're making decisions based on who you know you can be. And so there's a big energy difference there. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us, one of the steps in your process is about self-actualization versus self-sabotage, and how can someone identify and overcome self-sabotaging patterns?
It's big, isn't it? We all self-sabotage. One of mine was cleaning the house. Every time I'd go to bed, I'm like, right, I've got this really important thing to do tomorrow, and it has to be done, right? And I have to do this thing, and it'd be a scary thing. And I'd get up in the morning, I'm like, oh gosh, that needs cleaning. Oh, and you know, by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, sprinkling the whole house. And I'm like, what are you doing? That thing hasn't been done yet. So that was one of my biggest self-sabotages. And people have all sorts of different ones. And I guess in that step, in step 3, we really identify that, and being aware of your self-sabotaging patterns doesn't necessarily make them go away, but it stops giving them the power. So now if I've got something important to do and I find myself with a cleaning cloth in my hand, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to allow this to happen today. Nothing needs cleaning, Trish. Get the thing done, right? But there's all sorts of self-sabotage, and I find that when people are working through the process, because they've got a different mindset about who they are and who they're becoming, the self-sabotage becomes very clear. And it becomes very clear, and the awareness comes a lot more easily. But it is the awareness, and I get people to write down, maybe 3, and the audience could do this here as well. Write down 3 things where that you self-sabotage. Then at least you'll start being aware of them, writing them down. And it could be something simple like cleaning. Like, people may not think that that's a self-sabotage, but it is. And other self-sabotages are being late. That's a self-sabotage. Sometimes people get sick. Sometimes you'll find someone who's there's always something wrong with their car. There's all sorts of different things that we create that we don't think we create, but we do actually create. And losing a voice when you're going to speak. There's all sorts of different things, but I think most people would be aware of at least one self-sabotage that they do. So I would just write down at least 3, just tune in, okay, and just write them down, because once you're aware of them, as I said, they will lose their power. And don't put yourself under the pressure of thinking that you need to eliminate them all. Awareness will just allow them to soften. And as I said, going back to the beginning, which is actually the end, and going into that reality where you're already living what you want, you come back and you're taking actions without the fear. So the self-sabotage won't be as strong. It won't be as strong because, so an example, when I would start the cleaning, like, the important thing that I had to do was scary for me because I didn't believe in myself in that particular instance. But coming back from the reality where I remembered who I was, going into those tasks then was without the fear, and hence less sabotage. So, and the self-actualization is the opposite, really. It's what I'm aware of is who I become. What I'm aware of is who I can become. So if you're aware of those self-sabotaging patterns, you can you kind of not push through them, but you can step through it a lot more easily because you won't have the fear.
Yeah. Your work is about connecting deeply with yourself and with other people in a really authentic way. Can you share some practical tips to achieving this connection?
Yes, absolutely. So there's the obvious ones like meditation, going into nature, those things. I do talk about the chakra system in the book. I do work with that quite a lot, actually, with my clients, because each of your chakra, if people don't know what most of your audience will know what the chakras are, I would imagine. But the main 7 ones, we've got over 1,000 chakra. They're like portals for energy that come into our body. And the main 7 ones are the crown, which is here, third eye, throat, the heart, and then we've got the solar plexus, which is above the belly button, sacral chakra, which is below the belly button, and then the root chakra, which is in your pelvis. I work with those main 7 ones, and each of those chakras represents an area of your life. So when I'm working with people, I either tune into their chakra energy to see where there's blocks, or they tell me a little bit about their life, and I can see which and I just know which chakra area is kind of a block. So in the step of connection, we talk a little bit about chakras, and I've got a meditation for each of those, because clearing that energy allows you to be fully connected in all parts of your body, and therefore in all parts of your life. And some people are very connected to the spiritual, but are not feeling very stable or emotionally balanced because their lower chakras are out. And other people are very so the lower chakras are all about emotional stability, financial stability, money coming in, feeling safe, secure. A lot of people are there but have no spiritual connection. So it's about finding balance with all of that, because that all helps with you being as energetically vibrant as you can in all areas of life. But some practical tips for that really would be, if you don't know about the chakras, look up the chakras, because even just the different colors will really help. So if you're, going to a situation where you need to feel safe and secure, you might want to wear red. Or if you're going to speak somewhere and you're a little bit nervous, right? You might like to wear something blue for your throat chakra, or something yellow for your solar plexus, which gives you that kind of confidence. Yeah. So chakra work really helps. Going out into nature really helps too. And I just want to say that you can meditate anywhere. Meditation doesn't necessarily mean closing your eyes in a lotus position and being still and quiet for an hour. I meditate all the time, and meditation for me is just focusing in the now. And so what can you do to focus in the now? Look at the little bee that's buzzing around the flowers. Watch that cloud that's moving. Watch your pet intensely for a few moments. Look in someone's eyes. It's really just finding something to bring you to the now. And being in the now is really important, because when we're in the past, we're in fear. When we're in the future, we're in anxiety sometimes. So when we're in the now is when we feel most connected to who we really are, and the decisions then that we make moving forward will come from stability and presence rather than fear or worry. Yeah.
There's an old Buddhist teaching. I studied that many years ago. Anyways, but there's a teaching that be here now. And so I used to practice when my oldest daughter, she's now 16, was still in a stroller. I would do that with every breath I took. I'd be pushing her around. I sold my car and I just walked and biked everywhere. And I'm here now. I'm breathing this breath right now. And that's all I would concentrate on. So that was it. I did that for a few years. It is meditative. I say motorcycle riding is meditative too.
Absolutely. Because you're in the moment, enjoying it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's just I'm not thinking about anything else, just feeling nature, and yeah, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point. The whole point is to be in the now and feel the joy. That's the whole point of being here. And,
Yeah.
we so often forget that because we're either in remorse or fear or anger from the past, which consumes all of them present moment now, or we're in worry of the future. Yeah. And it's like, well, you just missed that moment. Like, oh, that could have been a moment of joy. So yeah, it's so important, so important. I missed a lot of the experiences of my children growing up because I wasn't in the now moment. I was a workaholic,
Mhm.
and I just had to get to work, and and I don't live in remorse about that, but I understand how difficult it is some days to be in the moment, but I also know that it's possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's good. And what about now when she's a teenager? Have you had to be in the present moment more often?
Yes, I usually let her dad take her driving because she's still learning to drive, and I'd rather not be here in that moment this much. I love her dearly.
That's my bike riding day. Sorry.
Yeah, I like bikes. I don't know about this car thing.
Oh dear.
So in your book, you discuss engaging the power of the new normal. Can
Yes.
you explain to us what that means and how can it benefit someone's life?
Yeah. So this is the step 5. And this used to be my step 1, which is why I was just treading water, because I was trying to change everything in the environment around me to make things better when I was still creating the old. It's just an endless, I call it the flat forehead. You're just constantly banging your head against a wall. It's like, well, I do put all that effort in. Why do I keep bringing the same things? And it doesn't matter whether it's the same relationship that shows up, the same money issues, the same job situation, the same environment. If you don't change in here first, nothing will change on the outside. So this is why it's the last step in the process, because once you already believe that what you're transforming to is possible, you will take different actions, you will have different thinking, you will be different in here, and it will already start feeling a little bit out of alignment, your environment. So for me, it was really interesting. The first process that I went through, which was lack to abundance, after a few days of doing the processes, I started to look around my home and I'm like, wow, this doesn't feel abundant. It felt really out of alignment. Even though nothing had changed really, it just felt really out of alignment. And so I felt that straight away because I wasn't in that lack mindset anymore. And my environment was reflecting the lack mindset. So I started to change things and make new decisions. And that is the same with any of the transformations that people go through. It's not a deliberate kind of, right, now I'm this, so my environment needs to be this. It's because you're already that on the inside, things start to feel different on the outside, and you look at things and you go, okay, well, that's a bit different. Or you look at you might look at your work environment and think, you know what, I'm not putting up with that disrespect anymore. Or you might look at your relationship and kind of go, okay, I'm going to speak up. So it's something shifts inside already with the other 4 steps, and then the outside kind of starts changing, and it's being aware of any fears that come up with that as well, because we can often I live on my own, so some of these transformations are a little bit easier for me because I have nobody around me criticizing me, right? But there are a lot of people who have partners or other people around them who are going, "What are you doing? How dare you change? We don't want you to change." Like, people don't want you to change because all the rules change. And so people get stuck in who they are because they don't want to rock the boat. But once you've done the first 4 steps, you kind of don't feel like you're rocking the boat. You kind of just feel like it's a natural movement forward, and it becomes a lot easier. Becomes a lot easier. But your outside, your external, always reflects your internal.
Yeah.
And you could even just look at that and go, okay, well, what's on the external here that I want to change? And you can't change the people. You have to change what's in here. So that's why it was so tricky doing that one as a step 1, right? It's got to be, that's why starting with the end first is really what changed everything for me, because it made the other things so much easier.
Right.
Yeah. No more flat forehead.
No more flat forehead. Oh, you have been dedicated to helping people for over 40 years. What drives your passion and for inspiring, guiding others?
It's just something I think that's come very naturally to me. I started in the nail industry when I was 17, just by accident. And I remember people coming in who were my age then. I thought they were very old. They were coming in their 40s, 50s, 60s, right? And I just knew what advice to give them. And they really appreciated it, and they kept coming back. And I'm like, well, and I didn't think much of it at the time. I just thought, oh, well, everyone can do that. But, one of my gifts that I've been given this lifetime is just to be able to give people a new perspective on things. And it's not a positive thinking thing. It's not like, oh, let's just think positive. It's like I really bring in these new perspectives for people so they can see life a different way and see the story that they're saying a different way, which frees them from feeling stuck. And I've been doing that since I was 17, and it just comes naturally to me. So that's what drives me. And I now do it I still do it. Obviously, it's in a different industry, but that's what I really love doing. And people can come to me with their story or with what they want to change or what's blocking them. And I just have this intuitive ability to really understand what the actual issue is and just change the perspective on it and give them a new option to think about. And it just really, it brings me so much joy just to see people, get people coming to me that have been stuck in one mindset for years and years and years, and they come to me and I'm like, but what if this happened? And they're like, oh, I didn't think that was possible. But because I can show them their greater possibilities, then it gives them a new perspective on what's possible for them. And sometimes that changes everything. Sometimes it just sparks them. It's that first little spark inside them that shows them that they can be whatever they want to be. And sometimes it just gives them permission. A lot of people have grown up with people telling them they can't do certain things, or they can't be certain things, or who are you to do that, or who are you to be this. And I think what I help people with is giving them permission to follow their passion and their dreams and follow their callings. Yeah. So that's what drives me. Yes. And I think everybody's got a passion in life, but not everybody feels that they can express it. And
I think you're right.
yeah. And so, you know, and I guess my mission here is just to help as many people as I can to kind of step into that and go, you know what? Yeah, I always wanted to do that. I'm going to give myself permission to do it. And not all of us are changing the world in, you know, massive ways like Elon Musk or some of those people, right? Some of us change lives just by being the one out in the street that smiles at everyone. Some of us are changing lives by being such a loving mother and friend and confidant that it helps other people. Like, I think a lot of the times people don't give themselves enough credit for how they help other people or how they help the world, because they don't think they're doing anything special, but they are. And just being present helps everyone energetically.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's those little things that we don't give ourselves credit for that are actually making a massive difference. And everybody has some type of calling, and everybody has some type of presence that will help. And you can tune into that, because it's whatever gives you joy. Whatever brings you joy is where you should be. And it can really be that simple. If you know, if smiling at someone in the street and making their day brings you joy, then that's it, right? If you know, creating new water systems for people in third world countries that don't have any water, if that brings you joy, great, do that. Right?
Exactly.
It's not the size of it, it's the energy in the moment that counts. And our energy affects, it's a ripple effect. And if we understand that, then that person you smile at today, it could change their entire day, which then has a knock-on effect to their family, to their friends, to everyone around them. And I think we need to give ourselves more credit for the little things in life that we do that make a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to thank you for being here today. You have such a beautiful, sweet spirit, and it was such a treasure to speak to you today.
Thank you.
All the links to find your book and to find you, and, you know, if we want to reach out to you, it will be in the description below. And, well, if you write another book, come back on. Even if you don't write another book, if you have another topic to talk about, then you are welcome to come back, because I've had a great time talking to you.
Thank you. And so that's my book. You can probably see it here anyway. So here's my book, The Peace Process. And it's available online at Amazon. And thank you so much. It's been such an honor being on your wonderful show. And I love that you're, you know, helping authors who are out there writing amazing books to get their message out there. So thank you. You're making a big difference.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening episode of the Zarlequan podcast. Remember to subscribe to our newsletter so you never miss a beat.